Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. On today's episode, myself, Jacob Coleshaw, is the fantastic Charlie Zazera. How are you, mate? You okay? How you getting on?
Right, got a bit of a cold, but to be honest, yesterday's game put a bit of it cheered me up. Really, I thought we played really well, and I came away from it with a little bit of a buzz. So looking forward to chatting about it today. And obviously, we've got a special guest with us, so should be a really good one.
Special guest indeed. We're delighted to be joined by not only a legend of a bloke, but a Watford legend as well, making 252 games for his boyhood club, winning back-to-back promotions to the Premier League. It's the original one of your own, Paul Robinson. Paul.
Merry Christmas. Here we go. You've got the red wine in your hand.
Amazing. Robbo, how are you, mate?
I'm all good, thank you, fellas. All good. How are you? You both well?
Yeah, really well, mate. Really well. It's a pleasure to see you again. I remember we did a couple of a long time ago, same before we started today. I did an interview with Robbo called Defining Moments for the Club, where we looked back through some of the old shirts. And I said to Robbo at the time, we've got to get you on at some point onto the channel. And then we did Hive Live together. And I was like, oh, come on, this has got to happen. So third time lucky, mate.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, Charlie has been texting me to try and get me on for a while, but unfortunately it's come at bad timings with the boys. And like just family stuff at the weekend. So no, I'm delighted to finally be on the show, fellas.
Oh, pleasure. It's going to be a really good one today. And make sure you do get your questions in for Robbo. If you're watching this live, and even if you're watching this back, we can ping them over to Robbo. So yeah, let us know what you think of the stream, and let us know any questions you have for Robbo. Charlie, is there a favourite Robbo moment that springs to mind when you think of the man himself?
Just the tackling. That's when I was really young. Started watching Watford. It was just like, who's that guy who's just taking out people left, right, and centre on the left? Like when we were talking with Robo just before we went live, and when you hear the way he talks about the club, talking about coming back to my club, it just makes it so much more special. Obviously, we've got Ryan Andrews playing at the moment, so it's great to have that coming back. But yeah, it's just great to speak to a proper Watford man, and what a player he was for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbo, is there, and this is a difficult first question, mate.
Yeah.
If you could relive one moment in a Watford shirt.
Wembley
promotion
final. Yeah, that was just one hell of a special moment. And then I think I could relive the aftermath as well in the fountain at the top of Watford. That was that was the pond was just full of yellow shirts, which was amazing to see. But no, I mean that one stands out for me. Obviously, the promotion as well from the year before at Fulham. So yeah, but just so many great memories. The Premier League, playing against world-class players, and the ups and downs of Watford, really, of what it was like growing up in the town and being part of the youth team, and then being part of what was a successful first team.
Have you been in the pond since?
I might have been, but can't remember it.
It's too much red wine, mate.
Yeah,
exactly. As always, this video is brought to you by Mad Squirrel, the best beer in Watford, 7 minutes away from Vicarage Road. We've also got an exciting Christmas giveaway, which you can check out on our socials, where you can win a brewery tour, keg of beer, sumo cards, where you get discounts every time. It's similar to like a Tesco club card. So make sure you go over to our socials at WD18 fans and check us out on there, and you can get involved. But of course, it's 18 over, and please drink responsibly, all that good stuff. And before we even get on to yesterday's game, a huge shout out to Watford FC women, the Golden Girls, who beat Southampton by 6-1, which included a hat-trick from 16-year-old Layla Harbert. So great win for the Golden Girls, and we can kick on from this win today. Anyway, getting into today's show, Watford won, Southampton won. Charlie, you said at the top of the show that you had a bit of a spring in your step after the game. I was the same. I was running down the Upper Graham Taylor. I was running into hospitality. I didn't know what to do with myself, to be completely honest with you. But just your thoughts, feelings a day on what was in the end a deserved point, I thought, for Watford.
Do you know what it felt like? It felt like when we were back in the Premier League against like maybe a top 10 team, and we were like the underdog, and we were just playing really well and kind of giving it a really good fist of it. And I thought, just throughout the game, especially the first half, I thought we really challenged them. We limited them to few chances. I think Rajovic, maybe if he judged the ball better, he could have had a good chance. Ken Sema probably should have scored. But if you look at Southampton's team, littered with Premier League quality, so the fact that we're at the level now where not only can we compete with them, I thought we on another day we could have definitely taken 3 points. So really, really pleasing. Obviously, they got their goal. They didn't have a lot of opportunities, but I thought we came back into it. We were pushing. Espria had a brilliant shot saved. Ince, another one saved. And at the end, bit of route one, drops to Healey. Don't shoot, you don't score. And I thought, like you said, we got that point that we deserved.
Robbo, from a tactical point of view, and I know obviously your allegiance with Watford, but from a sort of neutral and looking from a bird's eye view, how did you assess the game coming away from it yesterday?
Assessing it, I thought, like you say, it was like Charlie said there, a really good, solid performance by Watford. Maybe frustrating at times where they could get a little bit more of the bodies forward. They're putting balls in, like Sema and Asprilla were putting balls in, and Rajovic was just by himself. Sometimes they're like Kiembe and Kone. Do they need to gamble a little bit more to get into the box first in the first half? Because they did it at the start of the second half a lot better. But then Southampton, like you say, good. They're a good technical team, but they don't really hurt you. They just like keeping the ball a lot, but it's always in front of you. And that's where I thought Watford done well. They nullified them. They limited them to a lot of like sort of half chances. Obviously, the goal that they scored would be a little bit of a disappointment coming from their goalkeeper in the build-up. Could Watford have played maybe a little bit higher up the pitch, stopping Armstrong getting in that little pocket? And Siriata, is he a centre midfield player playing in there? He's different to Jake Livermore, isn't he? He sort of got switched off a little bit, and then the ball goes wide to Fraser. He dinks it to the back. So Watford will be disappointed with the goal that they conceded. But other than that, I mean, it's a well-earned point because Southampton are a top team, and they will hurt other teams with the way they play.
The consensus, Charlie, among a lot of Watford fans is that we deserve the point. Did we deserve any more than that, do you think? Or do you think that was fair?
I think there was a spell in the second half where Southampton pretty on top, maybe the first part of the second half, where they eventually got a goal. But I think we showed really, really good resilience, like Sam said on his reaction video. Ken Sema's chance, is it that easy? I think the XG was 0.8 or something like that. So I don't think it's as easy as it might have looked. But I think a draw is a fair result, to be honest. And like we said, against Southampton, who they're going to be in the playoffs for me. And now we've got Ipswich on Tuesday, which I think will be a lot bigger task. And like we said, we got Livermore out. Robbo mentioned Siriata. Be interested to know Robbo's thoughts on Livermore, because he's made a huge impact this season for us. Kind of a lot of fans were saying before he came in, it's not a good signing, he's too old, etc. What do you make of Jake Livermore? Have you come across him? Obviously, he's played for West Brom. And are you surprised that he's been such an important player for us this year?
Yeah, I've played against Jake a few times, and yeah, I know what type of character he is. And for me, I thought he was a very good signing for Watford, because you need them type of leaders in and around the dressing room. I think he'll control it like he did at West Brom when he was there as their captain. People speak very highly of him, and I can speak highly of Jake as well. He's the ultimate professional, and he will go in there and he will do the job that we all know that he can do. And I always find it always takes time to settle into a club. But I feel you're seeing the best of Jake now with the recent performances. Yes, he's going to be a big loss. How long is he out for? Is he out?
I don't think they've said. I think it's a thigh strain. But
is it a thigh strain? So hopefully it's not too long. But like you see, the performances of when he plays, he just controls the game. He gets on the ball. He slows the game down. He goes in for the crunching tackles, which the fans like, because you got to put your mark in on people as well. When other midfield players don't like that when they play against him. So no, I think he's a very important signing for Watford.
Charlie, just on yesterday, actually, just funny Robbo mentioned about Livermore, because I was quite sceptical when Siriata had to come in for Livermore. I felt Livermore's probably arguably our most important player in terms of being that core of that midfield and really linking up play, breaking up play, doing things at the right times, being in the right position. It's stuff that sometimes might not appear on the stat sheet, but when you go to the game and you watch it, you feel like we're in control with and without the ball more when he's on the pitch. Did you feel there was a difference yesterday when he wasn't in the team and Siriata, who's a makeshift number 6, coming in there?
It's a hard question for me, because you know how much I love the Chilean Pirlo. I thought Siriata did okay yesterday. Maybe not as dominant and maybe not as savvy as Livermore in terms of kind of positioning. Sometimes you could see him running towards his own goal where Livermore would just be in the right position. But I thought he was fine on the ball. He's naturally a centre half, isn't he? So he got put in that position, which I thought from Val, pretty good move, because he could have moved Kayembe back as a 6. but we've seen how well Kayembe's played a bit more advanced. So I thought it was the right call, and I thought he played well. What did you reckon?
I think you see the difference. I know they're not saying that's against Sierralta, but I think you see a difference when, as Robbo said, you've got a guy like Jake Livermore who's got the experience, who's got the nous, who's got the awareness positionally. I think that's a big thing for me, and that's nothing against Sierralta, but there's a lot of times when Hamer's got the ball, particularly in the first half, where we're looking to play out the back and people are hiding behind players. And I felt that you need your number 6 to kind of drop a little bit deeper and try and get on the ball. And that's been quite an easy way of breaking the press for us in recent games. When Sierralta's there, it feels like sometimes he doesn't really know where to be at certain times. That's completely natural because he's not a central midfielder at all, really. You know, he's had to fill in there. And that's the one position that I think we probably need to bring in January is a reinforcement in there. Just on other players, Robbo, were there any that caught your eye? Maybe even not just yesterday, but in kind of your preparation for the Millwall Watford game when you were there. Is there players that you look at this Watford team and you go, you know, they're a threat, or they need to be targeted a bit more? What have you made of some of the key players in this team?
I think the team's looking in really good shape with Ishmael. You can see now that they're together. That's the difference with the Watford team now, is that you can see that he's got them programmed properly. He's got them in a right structure. Obviously, Ryan didn't play against us. Ryan, he was suspended at the time. I love watching Ryan because I played with his dad, Wayne, when I was coming through the academy. So it's great to see him in the team and doing really well. I like Lewis, the left back, but sometimes I'm just not too sure on him. He's a little bit flimsy at times, where I'd like to see a little bit more defensively with him. He gets caught out quite a bit. Hoedt, the centre half, he looks like he's settled. He's a physical presence at the back there. And Porteous, or like you say, Sierralta, when they're both playing there, they both look like now they've got that good partnership. But for me, like we're talking back on obviously the difference with Sierralta and Livermore. Does Southampton's goal, is that preventable when Livermore's in there with like his communication? Whereas you see Sierralta's dropping off because he's more of a defender. So he's automatically in defensive mode. Whereas Jake, is he closing the lines and talking to the players in front of him a little bit better? Kone and Kayembe, for me, I think they're two really technically very good players and athletes as well. They get forward at times and they're very positive in how they play. The Spriller and Sema, when they both play, they're like, you want to just give them the ball all the time because they're going to cause defenders a lot of problems because of the quality that they've got. And then up top, like you say, you've got that dilemma with Bayo when he's in form and when he's firing, he's a handful and he can cause teams a lot of problems. Rajovic, he loves balls coming into the box and crosses. You've got Healey, like you say, he's come on. That will give him a lot of confidence because he has struggled since he's come to the club. But that goal now hopefully will give him a little bit of a lift. And I think we saw it like towards the end of the game as well. Watford then, they were in the ascendancy and he's got one head of a long throw on him as well, hasn't he? He was long ball into the box.
I have no idea where that's come from, Robbo, but apparently Ishmael said they discovered it last month. That no one knew about it when he joined the club.
You do. Even with players that you work with, sometimes you don't realise that they've got this sort of weapon that you go, where the hell's that come from? Why didn't you ever say it? You go, well, you've never asked me. So,
there's actually a player in the squad who might have a longer throw. When we were signing Rajovic, I was looking at his clips on Y-Scout, and some of his best actions were a long throw.
Has he got long throws?
Apparently, we haven't seen.
You can't have him taking long throws because he's a target.
We know Ryan watches the show sometimes, so if anyone can confirm or anyone at the club, they need to do a bit of content to see who's got the longest throw. Because I'd love to see a throw between Healey and Rajovic to see who's got a longer one.
Who's your money on?
Oh, it's got to be Healey after yesterday.
Yeah, it's got to be Healey.
Unbelievable, and also
for a little man as well.
He's a smaller guy, and also like the hoardings at Watford, you don't actually have a lot of run up space.
There's not a lot of space to run up from.
Yeah,
so he does launch it.
Do you know what? We'll just touch on the goal now, actually, because there was a comment from Jonathan saying, also, isn't that 8 goals scored now this season after the 80th minute? Amazing resilience, Charlie. I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have seen that from the Watford team last season. So would you put that down to? Is it as simply as resilience? Is it just keep digging, keep going in there? Because even the goal at the end, the commentator said it was a bit hopeful, but I watched it back again, and yeah, Porteous has put it into an area, but Bayo's won the header, showed real determination to get up there, and even Healey taking the shot on. Yeah, granted, Bazanu should be doing better, but it wasn't. the way the commentator was making out like it was a complete luck, it felt like there was definitely some planning to it.
Yeah, I thought like, there's how many different ways can you score a goal? And at that stage, thought Porto got a good kind of pre-assist, putting it in a good area. Bio did really well to get that first contact, and Healey's taking it early. I just think it's all down to, like Robbo mentioned, what Val's done in creating that team spirit. We've got kind of a smaller squad, 2 players in each position. Everyone's getting utilised, and we're going into games where we're still in games and everyone can make an impact. And I think that was the same yesterday with Bayo coming on and Healey coming on to score the goal. So we've seen how many times we've done that, even against Millwall a couple of weeks ago where we came back. So I don't know, Robbo will know more than me, but playing in different teams and coming up against different teams. But for me, it's just that team spirit and togetherness and just that resilience and attitude. I think that mentality is quite important in football. What do you reckon, Robbo?
No, 100%. And I think, like you say, Watford, maybe if they'd have taken that tactics into that a little bit earlier and disturbed Southampton a little bit more, they might have gone on and nicked it maybe, like, and got the 3 points. But it's every opposition you play against different, and it's how you're going to play against them. I mean, obviously, when I was at Millwall and we were playing Watford, the first things for us is that we're going to make it uncomfortable for Watford because they were technically better than us. We knew that. So for us as Millwall, right, well, we're going to play ugly. We're going to make it ugly for them, and we're going to disturb them as much as possible. And that's where our goals come from. Our goals come from physically outplaying you in that sense. And Watford, they didn't know where to go from it. But I think what we're seeing a difference in Watford this year is that they're physically standing up to stuff now, which is great. And like Charlie's Jacob said there before, is that Watford team might have lost that yesterday before in previous times because of the way Southampton played. But they never give up. They kept throwing the ball in there. They kept putting them off. They kept getting on the front foot. They kept making it ugly at times. And they got the goal they deserved at the end.
Oh, do you know what, Robbo? You just kind of led on to one of the questions we have written down about what your experience has been like coming up against Valor and Ismail's team as a coach. And what would you say his team strengths and weaknesses are from a coaching point of view?
When you play against Val's teams, he's always got them well drilled. Obviously, the Barnsley team that we used to play against, they used to play a ridiculous high line, a bit like what Southampton were doing yesterday. As soon as the ball went forward, they squeezed to the halfway line. That was what Barnsley did when he first went in there, and he got them doing that. And then when he went to West Brom, he obviously changed it because he technically had better players, so he knew he could try and play a different way. But he also tried to play the longer ball, and he didn't quite find the balance. But what you know with the Val's teams is once he gets them in structurally organised and the formation that he wants, you can see that they can do both. They can play the forward balls and they can make it uncomfortable, but they've also now got the technical players to sort of dictate the game and play and get the balls to their most gifted players, like your Semmers, like your Sprillas out wide, who know that they're going to, like Tom Ince as well. They're giftedly talented, and you've got to just keep giving them the ball and let them cause problems. So with a Val team, you know that you've got that difference in there now, is that they can go forward and they can put you under pressure, like we've seen with the goal from Healey's goal, but also they can play football and they can hurt you in the wide areas with the quality of the players that they've got.
Charlie, do you want to maybe do a little stats rundown from yesterday, just on that?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing while I get this up, I wanted to ask Robbo on that. How many coaches that you come across stick to their principles, and how many are a bit more flexible compared to what team they have? Because going into the season, we were expecting kind of more direct, high intense pressing, and then first game against QPR, we're seeing inverted fullbacks and midfield rotations, which we're just shocked about. Just how versatile and flexible Val's been. Is that common, or is that something that you don't really see too often in coaches?
No, I think this year, when you look at the Championship, I think when you look at the stats, I think it's a more possession-based league this year, where a lot of teams want to build up and play from the back and find them passes. And a lot of teams want to have the percentage. They look at it and go percentage, but for me, it's like, no, 3 points. I want 3 points. End of story. So when you look at Val's teams, he can set up either way. He can set up to keep the ball, or he can set up to go and be a little bit of aggressive. So I think they've got that good balance of the mixture that they can now mix it up this year. And they've got the players to do it as well, which is great. Whereas Watford probably previously, in previous years, when you go back to your Troy Deeneys, that's when they had that little bit more of a physicality side to them, where they knew they could play up to someone that could hold it up and bring other players in. But since the game's changed and the team's changed, they haven't quite found that balance where it looks like Val now has. And it'll be interesting January. I'm looking forward to January to see where he goes in the transfer market, to what type of player he brings in, to where he takes Watford to that next level now as well. That'd be interesting.
What type of player do you think, Robbo, just on that? If you're looking at the game yesterday, was there anything that you thought, you know what, we're missing that a little bit?
I think he might look at a striker that can do a bit of both, that can be that target, but can also find the back of the net and be ruthless. I think maybe that's what Watford are missing out on at the moment, is that ruthlessness in front of goal. But again, everyone wants them players, and they cost money, and that's the difference. Is where do you go with that? Jake, how long's Jake going to be out for? Does he look for another midfield player like a Moat, who I know that he tried to sign, but he's now got in the West Brom team and he's doing really well from them. Does he look at another midfield player that can get on the ball? And you got Loser there as well. He's one of them players that he can get on the ball, but it's what do you get from him now? It's Loser. I know, is he one of those players that maybe's lost a little bit of interest in playing at Watford and maybe will move on somewhere else? So can he replace that type of player and bring in similar to sort of Jake, really, in that commanding role in midfield, if Jake's going to be out for longer than what everyone's thinking?
Yeah, I think that midfield position, Charlie, we've mentioned a couple of times on the show that we need a bit of cover there, especially with Jake. And, you know, as we've said, it's also the amount of games now. You know, I think it's quite asking a lot on Jake to play 2-3 games a week at 34. You know, it's especially demands of the Championship this season physically. So, yeah, it's definitely an area to look out for. Sorry, Charlie, I interrupted you, mate. You were going to bring up the stats and then...
That's all right.
Sorry, fellas, I was going to mention...
Mate, go for it. Yeah,
maybe a goalie as well. Maybe like a top-class goalkeeper that can play out from the back with his feet and be commanding in that sense. Sorry on that, Charlie, when you got the stats up there. I just think maybe like Batchman's sort of struggled this year. Hamer's come in and that, like obviously when you're watching him against Norwich, had that little bit of a wobble. You're looking at his distribution yesterday in the game. It was quite overhit or underhit. So it's that they need that like grounded goalkeeper that's maybe Watford have maybe missing out on over the years as well, that they've always had, is that solid goalkeeper.
You mentioned it before, Robbo, but is that something that you targeted at Millwall on set pieces?
Yeah, 100% we target him on set pieces, yeah, because we knew he'd be the weak link with it, coming out for crosses and commanding his box. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like people around him.
It's interesting to hear. It's interesting and good to hear it from that kind of different perspective. But
I think it's because we were all thinking it, weren't we, Charlie, as well?
No, but like you hear a lot of fans talking about it, but actually getting it like an insight into that is great. Let me just quickly go through the stats from yesterday, and I wanted to ask Robbo about one player in particular. You can see the momentum bar. They had a lot of possession in the first half. We ended quite strongly. Second half, they kind of dominated. And then we really came on strong at the end to get that equaliser. One thing that I tweeted about and that I was kind of chuffed about was just the main stats in terms of we had more shots than them. We had more shots on target than them, more big chances. But what's really pleasing for me, and again, just to see this team, there's not a lot in it, but the duels won. You'll see in the Championship how easily you can drop points. And last season was a prime example where we weren't winning any of the duels, and do you know what I mean? We were dropping points to Rotherham, Wigan, teams like that, because they had more of the fight. And I think it's such an important element of the game. More tackles. And talking of tackles, I wanted to talk about one player and get Robbo's opinion on him. But Ryan Porteous, I actually thought played well yesterday. Interesting to see what Jacob thinks. Have a look at some of the stats yesterday that he put on. 3 clearances, 2 tackles, 2 out of 4 ground duels. Passing accuracy, 84%. He got 4 out of 8 long balls. I thought Hoedt's long-range passing was a lot better yesterday. With Ryan Porteous, he reminds me of watching the Tottenham game of Romero, where you don't know whether he's going to get sent off or if it's going to be a perfect tackle. I call it kind of aggressive excellence, something Robbo knows about. But what do you make of Porteous as a defender? Because I think he's a bit split sometimes with the Watford fan base.
No, I like him. I like Ryan. I think he's done really well since he's come into the football club as well. He's But he does. You're exactly that. I think it's a great point with Romero at Tottenham. They're two players that you look at and you go, yeah, he plays on the edge. They both play on the edge of, you've got a yellow card and you never know what's going to happen next. But he's a winner. When you look at Ryan, he will throw his body in there. He will put the tackles in. He's very good on the ball. I do like the way he hits the longer passes. He's got an eye for hitting the diagonal, which is fantastic because it takes pressure off your team sometimes when you can find them passes. It's just maybe like when you look at him sometimes, it's like it is 100 miles an hour with him sometimes. If he just had that little bit more composure about him, then his game would be like completely rounded in what he does. I think that's what he just needs to focus on. Maybe is that he will sort of see something and he'll go, I've got to do it. Whereas he doesn't need to do it and he's just find the simple pass. But no, I think he's been a very astute signing at the club, and you can see that the more he plays, the more he will grow as a player in the team as well.
Can that be coached? That composure, yeah.
Yeah, of course it can, and like with yourself as well. I think as a player, if you keep working on it on the training ground as well, it does. Sometimes it doesn't have to come from the manager or the coaches. It's yourself as a player when you assess your game. It's right. I can maybe do that a little bit better, and then you go on the training ground. And you just work on it. You just work on like other players being there. Right, I'll hit that pass, or I'll try and find that pass. It's just simple stuff, but it's got to come from that player himself. That player wants to do that.
Robbo, how did you make sure when you were playing that you didn't maybe go over the edge? Like, because you were very committed in your challenges, you wanted to get stuck in. Was there ever a point where, how do you stop that from just going overboard and keeping your head throughout the game?
I think it's very hard to sometimes because the emotions of you are in the game, and the player that you are, I was always fully committed, and I had no boundaries, I had no limits, and that was my problem. Is that I always felt I was always going to win the ball. And I never was at times, and that's why I probably spent most of the time collecting yellow cards and a few red cards. But that was me learning, and that was me developing as a player as well at the same time. And I was only 17 when I first played for the club under Graham Taylor and Kenny Jackett. So I matured as I grew, and I learned that the game got quicker, the players got better. So I had to find a way of trying to change my game as a player as well, and trying to challenge, like you have to channel that aggression sometimes and realise that I'm not going to win that, so there's no point in going in for it.
Another left-footed defender I thought was really good again yesterday, Wesley Hoedt. I think his decision making has been really good, coming out, intercepting and passing. But Robbo, last week at Hull, did you see his goal? Is that something that you've ever tried?
Wonder goal. What's a goal? At first, I thought he's never meant that, and then you look at it again and you go, oh my god, finish. And from a left-sided centre half, you don't see that very often. So fair play to him. But again, he's another one that he's just a solid defender, isn't he? But he's technically very good as well on the ball when he finds the right passes, and it does. It looks like Watford have got that balance. You just want them to have that little bit more ruthlessness about them in the final third. That's all I want to see now from them, is that when they get in good areas, he's putting good balls in, but getting more bodies into the box. That's what I'd like to see.
Charlie, we touched on the two centre-backs there, Porteous and Hoedt. Who were the other players that stood out for you yesterday? Because from my perspective, I thought Kona had a really good game in the middle, because he just seems to keep getting better and better every time I watch him. In
the first half, he absolutely burnt someone, didn't he? He's got that burst of pace, and he just got away from them so easily. You can tell he's still young, he's still raw. Some of his decision making isn't great, but I think of a player of his age, I think he's still 21. You can see he's got up to the speed of the Championship, because I think when he first came, we thought he had a lot more time than he would have. But I think his ceiling is probably one of the highest of the clubs, and I'm really excited to have him, and I'm hoping he can go on to become one of our best players. I think he's getting better and better each week, so I'm hoping he can have a really strong end to the season.
Anyone else that you thought, you know what, needs a Charlie Zazera shout
out? Probably Ryan Andrews. Even I wanted to give him a shout out for his performance against Hull. He was up against Jaden Philly-Jean, who was kind of one of the most informed wingers, and I think his biggest strengths is his going forward, his underlapping and his overlapping. But I think defensively, he's really calm and considered, and doesn't make rash decisions like maybe his teammate to the left of him. And I don't know, Robbo, what do you make of Ryan? Obviously, another academy graduate, but are we right to say that we've got a special player on our hands?
Yeah, I think he's maturing really well each game. Obviously, it helps when you've got your dad who's been there and done it as well. And I think he will talk to him all the time and go through his game with him and help him as much as possible. But no, for me, he is a talent that can go on and have a really good career. And I'd like to see him. And like at times, it's a really young right hand side, isn't it, with a Sprilla? That link up play at times looks fantastic. But also they look like they get lost as well at times just because of the youth that's in there. But for me, that will only grow as the time goes on and the more times they play together. But no, I've been really impressed with Ryan since he's been in the team.
Yeah, top stuff. Top stuff. A few comments. Thanks to everyone who's watching live. And if you're watching this back, make sure you do leave a like on the video, subscribe, follow the guys on socials. If you want to follow Robbo on social, the link is in the description below. Sam, good to see you, mate. We've got a shout out here. I don't know if you know this man, Robbo. Tommy Whedon. Big shout out to Robbo. We played against each other at school level. Don't know if the name rings a bell. You can pretend if you want.
Go on, Tommy. No idea, Tommy, but I'll agree.
Charlotte says 2 games in a row we've scored from goals outside the box. Must be quite a while since that last happened. Yeah, I'm not too sure when the last time that happened.
If you want another stat, we are the second over performers for XG. Obviously, I think Wesley Hoedt's goal and yesterday's goal contributed to that, but just shows that Val, like we saw in that video, he's encouraging the players to shoot as much as possible. And we've scored some decent goals from long distance this season.
Ian with a shout out on the Xmas front. It's definitely guess one WD18 What a background for Robbo, by the way. If you're listening to this on audio, unbelievable painting in the background. I was expecting a picture of the Vic, but then we've also got a Christmas tree as well. How early do you get it up, Robbo? Is it first thing in December?
Yeah, 1st of December, always for us as a family. We love it. We love getting into the spirit and enjoying the family time. I think you just have to make the most of these special moments. Obviously, for me, it's my first Christmas at home in 25 years, so I'm loving every minute of it at the moment. So yeah, we like getting into the Christmas spirit in our house.
I can imagine, mate. And do you know what we were just saying before we went live as well about sort of what it's like to be in football around Christmas? Just tell us, for people who don't know, what it's like Christmas Eve, obviously Boxing Day fixtures as well.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's obviously time away from your kids, not being able to do the things that everyone else does, which is celebrate with their families. It's difficult, and it's an intense schedule, as we all see as fans. The amount of games we go to over Christmas for players, they're working. There's no days off for them. Their structure is twice as hard as what it will be for us, not just sitting at home twiddling our fingers, waiting for the games to kick off at certain times. The intensity of that is missing out on having like the proper Christmas dinner, having a couple of drinks with your friends and families at the special times, and you're in working ridiculous hours to try and make sure that you're getting 3 points in the games that you're going into.
Yeah, it was last year, wasn't it, where you were at the Vic? That's not a bad game to have on Boxing Day, was it? Vicarage Road last year.
No, it's not. But for me, it's obviously we live in the Midlands, so it's still away from me. Every game was away from me, unfortunately. Which was, but we was in the hotel. We was in the hotel Christmas night, even though obviously Millwall's London. It gets frustrating, but it is what it is, and it's what you get paid to do, and it's the job that we all love doing. It's unfortunately, we miss out on certain things.
Do you know what? We're going to throw over some questions over to Robbo. Sorry, Charlie. We're going to throw over some questions to Robbo, but go on, mate.
I wanted to kick off the questions. It's good that Robbo's had a glass of wine. So obviously we've seen Elton John. He's released his book recently. Just wanted to know if you've got any stories that you could share, maybe something that you haven't before, about any celebrations during your time at Watford. Did you ever meet Elton and go to any of his parties?
Yeah, met Elton. Elton used to come in the dressing room after every game when I was growing up. It's just surreal. You just see him walk in through the dressing room door, and you're like, "Is that Elton John?" And you're like, "Oh my god!" You just have to pinch yourself. But genuinely, what a guy! I mean, his football knowledge it blows you out of the water. He's just incredible. He just knows everything, and he just loves Watford, and that's the great thing about it, is that he always wants to see Watford do so well. But yeah, met Elton a few times, which is great. Obviously, working under the great man Graham Taylor was just a great experience for me. Being the England manager, giving me my debut. I learned off the best and I worked around the best in my eyes. So I loved every minute of it.
Was he? I'm assuming he was the best manager you played under, right, Robbo?
Graham was, yeah. Graham obviously was. He just took my game to the next level of like the detail was ridiculous. For the way the technology is now, you understand that we never had that back then. But his philosophy and his outlook on the game was just phenomenal, and I learned everything off him. Even though I never had the technology, I just learned off him with what he used to speak about all the time. Incredible.
What aspects of the game was he an innovator for? Because was it the pressing? Was it the data, like you said?
Everything, Charlie. He just knew everything about the game, like positionally, how you would be like as a player, where you should be on the pitch, where you should be when we're defending, where you should be when you're attacking. Just his knowledge, just the insight of like the stuff that used to come out of his mouth. I mean, some of it you couldn't take it in because it was too much, because you were just your brain was frazzled by it. But I just loved it. I just loved the amount of information that I was getting as a kid growing up.
Is there part of his coaching style that you've taken into your coaching style, Robbo?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I used to always, because I worked with some great managers, and obviously Graham was the first. And the main thing for me was Graham's management was the way he spoke to people and the way he handled people. That is what I picked up the most of, is that the man that he was. But even to the outside world, as we say, because we're in our little bubble of like our football, Graham was a human being. He loved the fans, he loved the community, and he taught us the community growing up as players. Is that he took us to like the local pub, and we go and have like sitting there and have like a Sunday roast with all like these people walking in going, "Oh my God, the Watford team's turned up with Graham Taylor." But that's what he was all about. He wanted us to be part of the community. And that's what I loved about it is that we were one. We were never different.
Special.
Yeah, what a man.
It was very special. Special times. Gives me goosebumps talking about it. So good.
Yeah, mate, amazing. I love it. We've got a few more questions. We'll rattle through them just because of time. So there was another one from Charlotte, which says, just going back on to sort of the academy players, there was a side full of homegrown talent in your time at Watford. It's great to see Ryan Andrews establishing himself in today's team. What can clubs do to enable more players to follow the route from academy to professional football, in your opinion?
I think it's trust. I think it's trust and belief in the academy players that are there. Are they good enough? Do they have the right mentality? Obviously, we're seeing Ryan at the moment has. Yes, back in my day is that we had 8 or 9 played for the first team. But that was the trust in the manager. And he believed in us, Graham, at the time. He believed that youth was important to him. He believed in Watford and the way that he wanted us to come through the system, and for the fans to see us, what we were like as players and as people. And I'd like to see it more. I would, but it's not just Watford, it's everywhere. I'd like to see a lot more homegrown players come through the systems, and instead of bringing these young imports over from other countries, I think it's about time we concentrate on our own and we focus on the youth of what's in the system and how can we help and develop them more to come through the teams.
Charlie, do you want to take the next one, mate?
Yeah, I think the question on kind of everyone's lips, and there was a lot of reports in the summer that Watford wanted to bring in maybe a Watford legend or help out with the coaching staff. Was there any conversations between you and the club at that time?
No conversations. Obviously, I heard the whispers as well that there might be a phone call that might go out to a player that's played for the club and is coaching. But I was at Millwall at the time, so I never assumed it was going to be me, because my job was Millwall and I was happy with what I was doing. But like you say, I think if Watford come calling one day, then that decision's already made up for me. Is that I'm happy to go back home to where it all started for me. Is
it that easy for you, Robbo? If the phone call came,
if the phone came in and it was the right way and the right timing for me, then yeah, it's a decision that would be very easy for me to make. Yeah.
Wicked. Okay, the next one there was one actually from James. So he said, Robbo, did you have any say in leaving or staying when West Brom came in for you? And does he agree that £350,000 was a steal for what West Brom got?
Not enough. Should have been more. Should have been more, fellas. Flip me. You tried to buy me back for 1.3 million. That's a rip-off. That was a joke. It was embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. It was embarrassing at the time. I had no I had no say in having to stay. I was told I had to leave. End of story. And that was the end of it. That was, for me, it was. I was driving up the M40 the next day on being told that we've sold you to West Bromwich Albion, and you basically can't say no. That was pretty much the answer that was being laid out to me. So yeah, the disappointing thing for me is that I never got really to say goodbye to the fans. But I did get a fantastic book of fans' comments that were sent to me by someone from the club. The fans had done a book of wishing me all the best, and that was fantastic. I've still got that. It's downstairs in the archives with all the other memories that I still have. But yeah, I think in football now we're seeing it a lot of you don't get to say. The clubs take it out of your control. And the club was going through a tough time of maybe administration. So I can understand the reasonings for it. I just felt it could have been done a lot better. That's the way I felt it could have been done.
It's hard, isn't it, football? So just wanted, before we wrap up, just ask a bit about Watford. And obviously Robbo's seen a lot of the Championship this season, seen the quality. What should us as Watford fans expect? Because I feel like the way me and Jacob are talking might be a bit more cautious, and the way you've been talking about the team is in quite high regard. I don't know if we're trying to stop ourselves from feeling any more pain because it's been a hard couple of years. But what should Watford be aiming for this season with the squad that we've got and looking at the quality of the league?
I think playoffs. I think before I said a time where they were going through a little bit of a wobble, Watford, and I said maybe mid-table just to get themselves back on track with Val in charge and finding the right balance. And I think what we've all got to understand is Watford have turned over a lot of managers, and the players that are there at the moment have been under so many different managers. Now Val's come in, and it looks like now he's getting into the players of, no, this is how I want you to play, and you're not going to cross the line with me because otherwise you'll be done at the football club. And I think that's what Watford's needed. I think they needed a manager to go in there and go, this is how we're doing it. It's like Graham Taylor. This is how I'm doing it. You're either on board or you're not, and you're going to go. So I think now we're seeing the Watford that can move forward and do the right things. I'd like to see him have a real positive transfer window in January. I'd like to see Val bring in players that can make the team better. And then hopefully, like you say, playoffs and get through there would be lovely, wouldn't it? I think that's what, as fans, we'd like to see that now. We'd like to see them just kick on a little bit more for the second half of the season.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Do you know what, Robbo?
I'd like to see it be more like expressive. I think when we see the players that there now at Watford, they've got the quality. It's letting the shackles off and letting them do that. I think we see at times the players are holding themselves back for some reason. They don't need to. It's a great league to be involved in. So for me, when you're watching the games like the Southamptons yesterday, it's as soon as they took the shackles off, you see the amount of bodies that they get forward and the amount of crosses that they get into the box. It's now having that ruthlessness in front of goal.
100%. We've got, do you know what, Robbo? We've got a message from Wade Andrews in the comment section. Robo! What an only.
What a guy. What a legend. I love Wayne. Great times. We had so many good times playing together, spending each other's company day-to-day basis. It was so good. And then, like you say, I've seen his posts about what a proud dad he is, and amazing. He should be proud. His son's doing so well. He's such a good player, and he's just got to stay focused and keep playing the way he is. And he will go on and have a great career. He's even, like you say, he's with the England under-20s. He's touching that England under-21s. That's what we'd like to see now, is that next stage for him to get into that under-21s position. But there's so many good players in England in that under-21s team, the right-back slots. He's competing against the Millwall player in Norton Cuffy as well, who I work with closely. But I think Ryan, he should just get the nod on that one. So I'm looking forward to seeing him get ahead of that, hopefully.
Love it. Love it.
And was Wayne as quick as he says he was, or did you?
Oh, he was definitely quick. He was definitely quick, Wayne. He was definitely quick at getting off as well quickly from training. I'm only joking, Wayne.
Wayne, oh man, I think I'm going to cry. Love it. Oh,
Love
mate.
it. Love it.
We've got
Wayne, Merry Christmas, mate, to you and your family.
Quality. We've got a question from Toby Harper, Robbo. Who's a better golfer?
I play golf with his dad.
Robbo Mooney.
his dad. He's living the dream in Australia, this geezer, Toby. Definitely Tommy Mooney, right? Tommy Mooney is a bandit. Let's get this. He's got too much time on his hands and he plays a hell of a lot. So every time I turn up to him, I go, what are you playing off this week then, Tommy? He goes, oh, 9. I went, well, last week you were 4. How's that work out?
He must be playing Saturdays now. He's not on the comms on Hive Live all the time.
Is he not? Oh, dear.
Not anymore. Unbelievable.
No.
Do you fancy yourself over Tommy Mooney, though?
Nah, Tommy's a good golfer, mate. He does. He has too much time on his hands. He's a good player. I've got too many kids to worry about.
Oh, love it. Love it. Do you know what, Robbo, just to wrap up, mate, we normally do like when we have a guest on, special guest like yourself, we normally do like a message to the Watford fans. But is there like a sort of kind of like final thoughts, feelings just on Watford as a whole at the moment, and just your thoughts towards the club?
Oh, the club, I always I have so much high regard for the football club. It gave me everything. I was born and bred in the town, so I know how much it means to not only myself but the fans and that. And yeah, no, I just wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope it's a very positive season for you. And I hope, like you say, get back to the Premier League where we all deserve to be. And that's the way to look at it. But no, I love the fans. I love the club, and I can't speak highly enough of it.
Gino, get on the phone.
Gino, come on, Gino, got the red wine, mate, and it's done.
Robbo, you are the man, mate. What a pleasure. I said at the top of the show, bucket list on this channel to get you on, mate, because you are an absolute legend. Mate, you're welcome on any time if you have a free 45 minutes on a Sunday with a glass of red. Be an absolute pleasure to get you back on.
Fellas, great show. Really enjoyed it, lads. You're doing a great job. Keep it up, yeah?
You're the man, mate. You're the man. What a pleasure. Merry Christmas to you and your family, Robbo. And thanks so much to everyone who watched and listened. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on the way out. Follow the guys on socials and follow WD18. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Merry Christmas. Up the audits.